Hi, I'm Pete Riley and welcome to the Fusion EZX. We're here at School Farm Studios recording several multi-tom kits.
Huge kits with plenty of toms, plenty of cymbals, plenty of snare sounds, plenty of kick sounds.
It's a library that we haven't really covered before in our back catalogue.
Kits that differ in terms of their tuning and head choices, but really going for a more open and honest sound from the kits.
So in the 60s, jazz and rock were quite separate disciplines, but in the early 70s, jazz drummers tried to start to keep up in volume, and there was a convergence of rock and jazz, and that was fusion.
The combination of both the power of a rock drummer mixed with the virtuoso playing of a jazz drummer, and it's those two things that combined. I guess a pioneer of that genre would be Billy Cobham, and then moving on into players like, there are so many, but Dave Weckl, Simon Phillips spring to mind.
All very skillful drummers, drummers that were technically very competent.
And with that, they've also brought iconic drum sounds as well. So within the genre, in terms of sonically, there's really quite a range of sounds.
I was lucky enough to work at Abbey Road for 7 years, and then once I left London, I moved outside to the countryside, and along with Andrew Sunnox, we decided to open this studio, School Farm Studios.
It's a dream space, actually, as a drummer and or recording musician. That this barn, does anyone know how old this barn is?
So the studio is based in a 17th century barn.
For years we had this great big barn that was sitting in the driveway. We always thought it'd be great to turn it into a studio, but the problem was that we basically had to build a steel frame barn over the old barn. It was a huge project, but fantastic. Finally, to get the ducks evicted, the horses out and everything else, and to start building the studio.
The control room is built from scratch, so we literally had a blank canvas to play with. So that's one of probably the best advantages of working here, that there's no excuses.
So one of the reasons that we thought it would be great to build a studio in a barn was because all of these random angles.
It's all very wibbly wobbly, as Andrew says. We've got these very old beams, and the fact that they are all in a random structure, they diffract the sound unevenly, which is what you want. The last thing you want is sort of stationary waves between walls and stuff like that.
It's an impressive place, and it's a fantastic drum sound in this room.
So many people come to this studio and they're never talking about all the equipment and the microphones and things that we're really proud of. What they talk about is seeing the lambs, or seeing particularly the alpacas.
Our Groucho and Peebles and Togs are the welcome committee. You don't come to the studio if you don't go past the cats, the dogs and the alpacas.
So prior to the recording of the library, I discussed with Pete the sort of sounds that we wanted to capture, and we really wanted to get a very dead sound, typical of Steve Gadd in the 70s, but mainly we wanted to go for the more resonant drum sounds from Simon Phillips and Dave Weckl.
Over the course of this session we recorded a total of 4 drum kits, but actually it's 5 different sounds, because on one of the kits we decided to change all the heads.
So that those 5 different sounds would be, in terms of the range, from a more open-tuned to a more dead-tuned kit.
So we started with a green birch kit, and that kit had coated heads on it.
Which you perhaps wouldn't think would make much difference, but it does. The head construction is the same, but that coating over the top of the head is essentially doing the same job as tape without the tape.
So we wanted to go for a slightly more sort of jazzy sounding kit. We then recorded a newer black birch kit.
This time with double ply heads, and also with the top head now tuned just about a tone down from the bottom head, and in order to emphasize perhaps a little bit of pitch bend and to encourage a slightly shorter decay from the tom.
So the third kit we recorded was actually Pete's signature kit, and we really wanted to get Pete's sound.
I've got suspension mounts on all of the toms as well. If you haven't got some kind of suspension mount, you can miss the fundamental note and resonance of the tom and end up just hearing the overtones.
With single ply clear heads on top and bottom, both tuned to the same pitch. But this is really Pete's sound. The fourth kit we recorded was maple construction, giving a slightly warmer sound.
Probably the most lively, high-tuned, open sound. And there we've gone for a higher tuning, single ply heads, top and bottom.
But with this kit, we decided to record octobands and a gong drum, as well as a secondary snare. The final kit we recorded was a much more muted kit. We went back to Pete's green birch kit.
But this time we've chosen double ply heads and removed the bottom head from the kit. That head choice is influencing the impact sound of the stick, so you're really reducing the resonance inside the drum. And so that would be almost the polar opposite of our initial sound with the single ply heads, so going for the maximum resonance. And so those are our two extremes, really. Wow, the sampling process, it's been quite a learning curve, well, I guess within the first day or so. But once you start, you get an understanding of why it needs to be under the microscope to that degree. Capturing those sounds, you'd go from the tiniest of notes, probably way beyond I would actually go in terms of a quiet dynamic. You're probably 3 mil off the drum head, and then you're going to almost and sort of over-the-shoulder tennis serve whack for the other extreme. But it's been a completely new and eye-opening experience, yeah.
I really think we've got the best personnel for this library. Both Pete and Stefano are really at the top of their game.
Oh, working with Pete is a joy, because you ask him if something is doable and he never says no.
He really is a drummer's drummer. He's technically probably one of the best drummers in the country.
He's the drum Wikipedia, basically. His knowledge of drums and drummers is just, oh God, he's a living magazine. You know, he's also a great drum tech as such, because Pete, I've never seen someone tuning a drum kit like Pete does.
Stefano's been doing whatever he can to make everything easy, and I'm used to recording drums, but not this way. And everyone's, made it as an enjoyable experience as possible.
Stefano has a great history in recording, working with many artists over the years.
I always ask for Steph because it's just really great to have someone who's not only an amazing engineer, but an extraordinary musician.
Well, luckily, the guys at Toontrack have done it for so many years, so everything is just smooth and easy. The vibe is beautiful. Damien and Pete and everyone else are just great to work with. It was just a great pace, great vibe, great people, and yeah, I loved it. Having the opportunity to mess around with these fantastic drum kits
and spend some time really putting these drum sounds under the microscope and getting the best out of these drums, and also just being able to take this approach to tuning and drum sounds and really digging down and going under the microscope and seeing the impact those small differences have.
I really think we've got some fantastic sounds in this library. I'm really excited for people to hear it.
I think people are going to be really impressed with how great the kits sound. I just think it's going to be inspiring for whether you're a programmer, a songwriter or drummer, just hearing these. This is what a great, well-tuned, well-recorded kit sounds like.
If you need a gong drum, you know, how many sample libraries have got a gong drum, you know, or octabuns, or a 10-inch snare, you know, it's definitely not something that you can find around the corner. If you go to a pub gig, you'll never see 7 toms, unless the pub is massive.
If you're playing an E-kit, you're just going to love these kit sounds. You're going to get that response and feel as you're hearing those sounds, and also within your recordings, this is what a great, well-tuned kit sounds like.
It was nice to see that even Damien and Pete were amazed by, you know, the clarity of the sound and how detailed it was. So yeah, I can say confidently that people will love this.
Check it out.